thinks we're doomed? Okay. And who thinks that we're in for a renaissance? It's pretty evenly balanced.
We have to downscale all of these major activities of daily life, including the way we construct the human habitat. Maybe there is an optimum scale for what urbanism is going forward, and maybe it's not grandiose, maybe it's not heroic, but it's reality-based.
I don't see us disconnecting this global economy that's really formed since the fall of the Soviet Union, that operates at such a gigantic scale. I don't see that disappearing. The other aspect is I respect what Jim has to say about shrinking, but basically it's not a message people want to hear. We need to I shouldn't give men respect. Okay. I think we need to find a way to, people have aspirations. We have to connect, especially in the developing world, where they really expect to escape from poverty, and they're really looking for the road out of there. And part of our obligation as a developed world is to find those roads so that they have something to aspire to.
And the idea that globalism is a permanent feature of the human condition is absurd. The global economy must be understood in the following way: a transient set of economic relations that will change. It depends on things that are self-evidently not sustainable, like 12,000-mile supply lines for merchandise. What I propose is that we're going to see North America and the USA become a much more internally focused economy. We have to reactivate the inland waterway system of America. We need to rebuild the infrastructure for commerce that takes place on the water. We need to rebuild warehouses. We need to put back the piers and the dry docks and the sleazy accommodations for the sailors. We're not talking about that at all. There's no conversation about that going on any more than there's a coherent conversation about rebuilding the railroad system in America.
Okay, mayor of New York City, and you've got a blank check. What do you do? Well, what are the things that you focus on now, given your worldview of where it's all going?
The limitations, shall we say, of the Bloomberg as a leader in revitalizing cities is that Bloomberg, like a good politician, does not look outside the borders of the city. And the New York metropolitan area is a sort of unified economic entity, no matter whatever you think about the political boundaries.
So you'd be doing what? You'd be calling Governor Christie?
Absolutely. Well, because it recognizes a reality that's already there. It already is an economy. We can't pretend it's not. I mean, we do pretend it's not, but it actually is. So if we don't act in concert as a region, then we actually can't get anywhere in preparing ourselves for the future. Now, that includes, of course, transportation, which is difficult, but actually New York has greater potential for the kind of diversified transportation we need than other parts of the country do. So that's a leadership position it could competitively, we could assume, if it chooses, New York region. But also, the environment does not operate within political boundaries. It does not even operate within little environments like forests and meadows. It operates in enormous watersheds and sort of ecological regions. And so when we think how we're going to do this, we can't forget that the Hudson River doesn't just roll by New York City, it rolls, by Saratoga, where Jim lives. And it goes way upstate, and these are economically unified and environmentally unified landscapes, and to think about them together is the way that we create the opportunities to do the things that we have to do.
New York faces particularly difficult problems, and I want to explain why I think that the skyscraper is a tragic situation, because it's not just about the energy picture per se, or at least not as directly as you would imagine. There are a couple of really major reasons that it's tragic. One is, a lot of these buildings will never be renovated. They'll be one-generation buildings, and we're not going to be able to fix them. We're not going to have the capital to fix them. Now that we face a context of contracting wealth, we're going to discover that the condo system of property division is going to fail.
Where are the jobs going forward? Because a lot of them have been in the cities. Where are the jobs, for example, in these smaller scale communities, and how does that, what will we be doing in the future cities since we're contracting as an economy?
And I dive in with this because the weakness of Jim's argument is the weakness of what happens with a lot of architects and planners who kind of ignore or don't understand economic forces that operate. To me, I look at the Midwest and say, well, it would be lovely to rebuild those. I mean, is that what the Midwest needs? There's really, it's what is powering that economy? What could power that economy? That has to be identified, actually. Because there's plenty of infrastructure in the Midwest. There's highways galore, there's underused railroads, there's plenty of room on the Mississippi River if you want to shove barges up and down. And that's actually not their problem. It may not be an ideal green infrastructure, but that is actually, they're not their economic problem. And what I see is, I think especially global warming will challenge things like supply chains that we rely on, but that is not necessarily going to be like the deal breaker of the global economy. Instead of, the global economy can exist if supply chains for sneakers, shrink from 12,000 miles to 2,000 miles. But in the bigger picture, there are so many moving parts that dictate to us what this global economy is that it's not going to go away. In fact, we've had a global economy for many, many hundreds of years. I mean, America almost got broken by when it was starting out by the global economy, because Britain controlled the globalization, the global trade that existed, and America was absolutely, utterly dependent on it. And so, in a sense, the global economy was more powerful then on people's lives than it is now. So it will change its nature for sure. And I think part of what's very important is to explore what that nature is going to be. But I think it's going to still be around, and so I sort of think that the huge cities are not going to go away. They become more another issue that we have to contend with. What about them works and what about them doesn't work? On the other hand, I think you cannot just take suburbs and shove them off the edge of the table and say, goodbye, you're over, because they're with us. In other words, the infrastructure's there, the buildings are there, the land use has been altered, and to undo all that, and to make some new kind of Eden will take so many resources that we can't imagine. So we actually do have to figure out, and I know it's a subject of a number of events here, how to retrofit them.
First of all, I don't mean to give the impression that I think that all global trade will vanish, because I don't think it will. It's just not going to be the gigantic dynamic system that we've experienced for the last half century or so. That will be very different.